Today we're going to start in on Unit 4, which is really just a continuation of Unit 3. Just split it up so that the assignments are a little more split up, and there was a bit of a break in this semester. It turned out really nice because the break was right at spring break. Usually it's a little more in between Unit 3, so it was a nice break. If you want to follow along on Unit 4, I have copied and renamed the Unit 3 final projects for this section and for the 4 o'clock section. So those are just what we ended up with before break for Unit 3. But there is also a zip file. I don't know why it's zipped. It could just be a regular old database file. This is a database file. We're going to modify the database in this unit. So if you want to try to follow along, you need both this and that. I've already downloaded them to my desktop, but I'll wait patiently while you do that. While you're doing that, I'm just going to, for those of you who want to follow along, I'm just going to run through what this program does, where we ended up last time, at the end of part 3. Maybe. That's the one thing I forgot to do. Okay, last time we got this so it displays all the records when we click. Please. No. Wow. We got it so it freezes, which is really good. It's a really tricky thing to do. There we go. All right, everything moves around. We can change things and save them. We also discovered how we can change things and make them appear in the grid. So now the extra N is in there. If I change the date to the 14th, save it, updates the grid. We can make changes and cancel them. Remember the logic here, I'm not going to talk about the other logic too much, but the logic here is simply go back out to the real database, get this record again, and redisplay it on the screen with its original values. So it's not like we somehow remembered what was in here. We just remember when we're loading these records, when I click on Jody Knight here, we just went out to the database, got Jody's record for this order on 213, brought a copy of it into the memory. The database itself is unchanged. Took that copy, put it into our business class, took the business class, transferred it to the form so that we can see it. When we hit save, we kind of reverse the process. Remember, whenever we change anything in here and leave it, the validation event transfers it back to the business class. So the business class always reflects this. The database does not. When we hit save, what happens when we hit save is it takes what's in the business class and overwrites what's in the database. So that's where we left off. What doesn't this program do yet? It does delete. You sure? Yes, Jody Knight's gone. It does delete, so that means what it doesn't do is new. We have no way of inserting a new record, today's pizza orders, into the database. That's a significant flaw, I would say. The good news is it's not terribly complicated, but what I've tried to do that makes it a little bit more complicated is use this exact same form to enter a new record. What surprised me when I was learning how to do this many, many years ago is how many authors of textbooks had two different forms. Form pizza order for edit and form pizza order for new. What's the difference? Got the same checkboxes, same radio buttons, same stuff everywhere. But they had two. The big difference is when you hit save, think SQL now. When you hit save, you're not doing an update, you're doing an insert. So they had two forms. The only thing that was really different was the save button because it did an insert instead of an update. I wasn't real thrilled with that. I'm not thrilled with having to maintain two forms with the validation being the same in both the form. The forms are almost identical. So I've come up with a way that allows me to use the same form for new records and for editing existing records. A little bit of complexity, but not much. And that did really well until this year when we started working on Lions Camp. And the students discovered another reason to have a separate form for new and existing. Primary reason is the separate form. What they have in a lot of their web forms is two tables on the same screen. Here's my customer information, and here's the orders that that one customer has placed. Well, when you're inserting a new customer, there are no orders yet. And so that part of the screen doesn't function right. And when you hit save, it tries to save the orders and there aren't any, and it chokes up. And so they found they had to have a different form. But the forms were pretty different because one of them had the extra piece and the other one didn't. So it doesn't always work, but it works pretty well here. So that's one of the things we need to do. The other thing I want to do in this one is change the, this is pizza shop, oh, the customer. If I store, remember on our old database, we can go look now. They're going to let me look inside. There's my data. Being database experts, does it bother you? This is not a third normal form database. It's got redundant data. What if Eve's name is spelled wrong? Now I got to go into the raw database and make changes. So what we are also going to do is start normalizing our tables. Well, for those of you who are doing custom projects, your own projects, not the DVD, not the car maintenance, if you're doing one of your own, you and I will have to put our heads together to come up with how to normalize your data, or come up with a second table. I need a second table. What we are going to do in this unit for pizza orders is put the customers in their own table, so the customer record appears once and we link it to the orders table. So that needs some modification. Those are the major things we're going to do. Then we're going to clean some stuff up. For instance, this is all long-term here. If I do a search for XXX here, there's nothing here, but there's still Eve's record over here. How could that be? There's nothing here. So I want this to wipe out or disappear. If there's nothing in the grid, make it disappear. When you first run your program and there's no data in the database, what do you put here? It crashes. It only crashes once before you enter the first record, but it crashes. So we're going to write some code that says if there's nothing in the grid, just hide this. Until they click new, then it all comes back and we can start using it again. So there's some usability things I want to take a look at. I want to disable these buttons. If I make a change, my new button should go away. I should not be allowed to click new until I've saved this one. Before I make any changes, there's no reason for the save button to be lit up or the cancel button to be lit up because I haven't done anything yet. So to make this a little more professional, we'll disable those until the user makes a change. When the user does make a change, then the new button goes away because I don't want you creating a new one until you've saved these, and the grid disables because I don't want you changing records until you've saved it. Because right now my program allows me to do this. Let's change it to mushrooms, and now I go here, and what happened to my change to mushrooms? Never got saved. I shouldn't be allowed to click in this grid, change records, until I've saved, we'll disable stuff on the form so that the user can't accidentally change records without saving first. I'm not going to warn them, we're just going to take away the ability to do it. Can't change until you hit save or cancel or delete. And so those are some of the things that we're looking to do in this unit. Let's take this project to the next level, make it a little more professional. When we're done, you'll have something that is very, very similar to the kind of projects that I do when I'm consulting. Linking tables, all that kind of stuff. And the professional stuff, validation, buttons disabling, etc. Questions on where we're going? All right. Then let me just, here, go back. When you're doing your homework assignments for Unit 4, I know most of you are still working, all of you, as far as I know, are still working on 3. When you get around to doing your assignment for Unit 4, you need to go up and get a new database. For the DVDs, I've added the store table that lists places where you might buy DVDs. Or the car maintenance shops, who did the work. If you're doing your own custom one, you and I need to talk so we can sort that out. So for Unit 3, at that point, what I would also do is kind of what I did here, is make a snapshot of your program, because if there's updates to 3, you probably want to do the updates to 3 without the new database tables and all the other junk we're going to be putting in here. So if you want to do updates to 3 and have a 4, I'd keep those 2 separate. Yes, you'll have to make the changes in 2 different places. Because any changes you make in 3, you're probably going to have to make in 4. But they can conflict if you're not careful. And remember, when we get to part 6, my evaluation sheet includes everything you've ever seen on the parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm basically grading your entire program in part 6. So anything you haven't finished from part 2 or haven't fixed from part 2 gets marked wrong again in part 6. So keep that in mind. I want to keep doing the updates. Questions? Okay. So what do we got to do? First thing I want to deal with before we even do new records is linking tables together. In this database, the way we have it right now, everything's in one table. It's not third normal form. You wouldn't normally see a table like that, except it's convenient for us in this project. The new version of this database includes 2 tables. Maybe. I knew if I reached for the pause button, it would jump right in there. Got 2 tables, an orders table and a customers table. And just like in RDD, the customers table, every customer has an auto number field. And they have a phone number. The orders table no longer includes any customer information. All it includes is the customer's ID number. So this pizza was ordered by customer number 137. Yes, you now know how to write queries to link those together, but we don't necessarily need those here yet. Customer number 137 is me. So now we have these 2 tables. And what we don't want on our form is the customer name to show up as 137. We don't want to show the customer ID. That's just used behind the scenes. Okay, if I can't show that, I want to show the name instead. How do I tie these parts together? That's what we're going to demonstrate. You're going to follow the same process when you get to step 4. You're going to go get the appropriate database for your project. Again, if you're doing a custom one, we'll have to update your database. You'll have 2 copies of the database. Then you go into your solution folder and replace the database that's there with the new one. So now my project has 2 tables instead of 1. Not only that, because I did such poor planning in the beginning, my orders table has changed. It no longer has first names and last names. It just has a link. Real world, if you do your design, particularly your database design, you got a pretty good handle on it. It's third normal form. You would never have built the form in the first place without the lookups. But we're learning. Not learning about third normal form here. We're learning about how do we connect databases and make that fairly simple. Now it's going to get a little more complex. So I brought that table in. What I need is some way for the user to pick a customer. Who ordered this pizza? Without having to know the 137 means Volker. But my program needs to know they picked Gall, Volker. Oh, that's number 137. Stuff that into the database. Now that I've brought my table in, my XSD is going to be a little flaky, right? It's going to be a lot flaky. And you'll have to do the same process because I don't have a customer first name, last name anymore. Not only that, I don't have a customer anymore for my lookup because it's not in one table. This is the order table with the ID and the date, and this is just an ID number now. How would you like to see that grid with a bunch of dates and 137s and 115s and go find Booker? Good luck. We don't want that. So our XSDs are trash. Can we edit these? Not real well. So here's my solution to the process. Just in case, I rename these, stick the word old on the end. So that if I forget how I do something, maybe I forget what this query is, or forget what that query is and how I concatenate it, I can go look at the old one. I could delete them and just start over. But instead, I'm going to rename these and then create my new and improved versions of them. So the first one I'm going to recreate is my TBL customers with all of its queries. I still want all of the fields, but the field list is different because there's no first name, last name in here anymore. So I'm going to create a new table adapter. Still going to use my connection string, still going to use SQL, and now maybe you've been in RDD long enough you want to manually type these, or you can still go to the query builder. But I'm going to say, give me all the fields from TBL orders. And remember, we qualified this with an order ID. Where the order ID equals a question mark. We did that a long time ago. We modified the original query that we got. Because remember, when we're going to get everything about a pizza order, we want all the fields, because we're going to fill in the form with all the fields, but for only one order, and we have to designate which order. Next, fill by ID. Remember that? Did that briefly. Not required. Just makes life a little simpler, keeps the fills separated. Next, lots of blue check marks. That's cool. Finish. Now here's what I want you to see. Customer ID. Not capitalized very well, but that's okay. That's what it is in the database, so we got to live with it. Customer first name and last name from here are gone. But we did create a delete order query and an update order query, and we still need those. So now I have to regenerate those, and this is a good review from part 3, right, where we created those queries. So now, instead of a new table adapter, I right-click and add a query to this table adapter. So I right-clicked inside here instead of in the middle of nowhere. Right-click, add a query, kind of query, an update query. Remember then we said find the where clause, there's the order ID. Another way to look at it is find the very first and. There it is. Delete everything after it. Extra parenthesis in here, get rid of that. Next, delete order. That's also optional. You could just leave it as query delete. Next, did I spell that right? Yep. Finish. And that, is that delete? Oh, that's a stupid name because it's update. You guys are not helping me much here. Configure. Next, update order. Karen's grinning. You must have caught that. Just didn't tell me. Thank you very much. Okay, so there's my update order. Looks a lot like this one. Order date, customer first. Ooh, see, there's customer ID again. The table no longer contains the customer's name, just a link to the customer. I need a delete query, so add another query, a delete query. Once again, find the first and, right there. Delete everything after it, extra parenthesis. And now that one's done. But now the fun starts, right? So this one, I've duplicated it. I'm pretty sure I got it all, so I could delete that. Just click it, delete it. Now this one. What's tricky about this? Two tables. Order information, customer information. Ew. That's nasty. How do we deal? Oh, no big deal, right? It's just a multi-table query, just a multi-table query. So I'm going to add a new table adapter. I have to replace that one. I could rework this one, but I think it's easier to just start over. Plus, I have this one to look back on in case things go really bad. New table adapter. From that connection using SQL. Now, if you're brave, you can type joins in here. I haven't tried a using in Access. I'm not sure Access understands the using. For those of you not in RDD, this one you may need help with. But what you can do using the query builder is say what? Where's my other table? Where's my other table? Can't tell, that was not expected. I'm adding a new table adapter. This table's got customer ID in it. There must be two tables. Unless I needed to delete that and bring, uh-oh. It's got customer ID. Why doesn't it see the other table? Pause while I research. All right, this is what it should look like. The mistake I made, so that you don't make the same mistake when you're doing this, is I had Visual Studio open when I dragged the new version of the database in there. And so for some reason, my DS orders or my connection string or somebody didn't see that new table. What was bizarre, I did this with the recording off, is I was able to say, give me a list of all the fields in the customers table, and it worked just fine. But for some reason, the query builder didn't see it. So I shut down Visual Studio, brought it back up again. Now I got both tables. I can select them both and add them and close. And notice now how it's done an inner join on with the table names in front. After today's lecture, that ought to look pretty familiar, except it's using an on instead of using. MySQL has using. My guess is Access does not. So now what I want is once again the last name, first name. Darn, I think this guy's going to be in the way. Should have parked that someplace where I can see it. Yeah, we'll do last name, first name, and my grid. Oh, wait a minute. The grid first has the order ID, then the customer, then the date, or was it the date, then the customer? Man, I can't remember anything anymore. Good news is my old executable's still out there, so I can go run this again real quick. Okay, order date, then the customer name. So the order ID, that's hidden. The order date, and then the customer last name, first name, and those we concatenated. In MySQL, you have to use the concat method, not here. We can concatenate using a plus sign. And I really need to give this the same name, same alias. And again, I should probably double check, but I believe that was labeled customer. If I give all these fields the same name, even though they're now coming from two different tables, if I give them all the same name, I shouldn't have to update my load grid and all that customization stuff we did. That should all still be fine the way it is. And how do I want to order these? We ordered them by date descending and then customer last name, first name. So that's also part of the query builder. I want to sort by date descending and then sort by customers ascending. And the query builder has this cool feature where it numbers them. This was the first sort and this is the secondary sort. So take a look, that's a pretty ugly looking query. But the query builder does put the table name in front of every single field, even though it doesn't need to. It still puts it there. So that's making it longer than it needs to be. And there's a join with an on instead of a using. I haven't tried using. Do I want to be brave? Let's cut that and say using customer ID. Go. So using that I just discovered last semester, right? Hasn't made it to Access yet. Oh, that was painful. Okay, so there's my query. No using is allowed. So another good reason to teach you the on clause is you can't use it in Access yet. Next, fill is good. And I get a couple of warnings. These can get a little disconcerting when you see these. That's basically saying, warning, I'm not going to be able to create an update or a delete command from you because I can't delete rows from this because they're from two different tables. What do you want me to delete? Do you want me to delete the order or the customer? Doesn't matter. This is my lookup grid. I'm not deleting anything. I'm just using it to fill up my grid. So the fact that I can't update my data or I won't be able to delete my data doesn't matter. So those warnings are okay. Those will happen every time you try to link two tables together. They can't delete, they can't update. This is two tables. Finish, and here is my new query order lookup. Notice it looks just like the old one. Did not want that. The heck is this? DS order CS. Careful not to double click. Okay, so here's the new one. Looks just like the old one. Order ID, order date, customer, as it should. Except the query is different because it has to join the tables where this one did not do that. This one would probably fail miserably because it can't find the customer last name, first name in the orders table anymore. So now I don't need that one. What I did with the recording off was now created a new table adapter for my customers table. For every table that you have in your database, you're probably going to need at least one, maybe more, table adapters. Remember Lions Camp? 50 tables? Oh my God. They could have 100 table adapters in that one program. Easy. The good news is it's not a one-to-one relationship. You have some tables you're never going to update. They're just lookup tables. You're never going to update them, so you don't need to create table adapters. But you're probably going to have to create lookups for those because that's what they are. They're lookup tables. So what I do, at least as a warm-up, for every single table that I think I might want to edit this customer data, I created a table adapter for it. And this is simply a get star from TBL customers where the customer ID equals question mark. Get one. What I really need more than anything else is a lookup. If I'm going to look up a customer, again, I don't want to type in customer number 137 for Boca Golf. How do I look them up? What information do you need to find a customer? Not a rhetorical question. What do you need? I need the customer ID. And actually, I could cheat and use the builder here, right? Say I need the customers table, need the customer ID, and I need the last name, first name. Do I need the phone number? Maybe. How many customers am I going to have named Volkergall? Probably one. How many customers am I going to have named Lyle Spindler? Maybe 2 or 3. If there's 2 or 3, you got to be able to distinguish them somehow. And so maybe you bring the phone number in. These sound familiar? They're the logical keys. First name, last name, phone number should not be duplicated. Those are the logical keys for my customers. In this example, to keep it a little simpler, I'm not going to include the phone number. Whatever you include, there should only be 2 fields. I'm going to explain why here in just a second. There should only be 2 fields, the ID and the rest of the data all concatenated. So if I am going to include the phone number here, I have to somehow concatenate it to my first names and last names. There should only be 2. So some of you had those fancy-dancy tables with 3, 4 fields as part of your logical keys. Whew, those are going to be hard for lookups. Try to find a way to simplify that. So here's my customer first name, last name. I need to combine them just like before. The plus and a comma, space, and a plus, and call that as customer as well. Same as it was before in my lookup. But this one is going to be used for combo box. Whoops. Very common mistake, forgot to sort. I could go back to the query builder, but I'm going to order by customer last name, comma, customer first name. Could I use customer? Oh. Can I use the alias in an order by? In MySQL I can. How about here? Looks okay. And if I really want to check, I can right click here and say preview. Preview. No value given for 1 or more required parameters. Uh-oh. Basically, it's saying I never heard a customer. Darn access. Okay, so back into here, right click, configure, and I can change this and put it back to, I don't even have to concatenate them, just separate is fine, that'll sort it properly. All the stuff you're learning in RDD is MySQL specific. Go to a different database, including access. The rules could be different. Microsoft SQL Server, rules could be different. Oracle, rules could be different. Next, next, finish. Let's try the preview again. Now it works. So that was the problem. But it wasn't a real good error message. One or more required parameters. What's a parameter? Information you have to provide later. I didn't ask for any information later. Well, it doesn't know what customer is, so it thinks you're making it up and you're going to feed it to it later. In the order by clause, that's what was causing trouble. And these seem to be sorted appropriately, so everything's good. This needs a name. I always name my lookups query customer lookup. All because I didn't do the database right in the first place. And we're not done yet. Well, let's take a break. But before we do, recognize that for every table I have a regular get me all the data for one record, table adapter. Here it is for customers. And I usually also have a lookup that allows me to look up minimal information required to look up an order, minimal information required to look up a customer. One last thing to recognize is, notice there's a phone number here. Did we have that before? No. I might put the customer's street address and zip code and who knows what else I might put in here. Favorite pizza. I can put as much information in here as I want. It doesn't mean I have to use it in all my other queries. It's there in case I need it. For right now, just to keep things simple, we've got a pretty much minimal set of data. Let's take a break and come back. Well, the first thing we're going to have to do is modify our class for customer orders because it's got customer names, so we can't deal with that.